Alright, so last time I left off, we had just briefly gone over RSS feeds, what they are, how you get to them, what they're used for, how they're used in WordPress sites, and then how we're actually going to use it to create an app, create a Reddit app where I can access various subreddits. Like I can change the subreddit, and it will actually pull information right from Reddit, right from the subreddit. So now we're actually going to get started with Retrofit and start writing the code. So I'm going to create a new project. I'm just going to call it Reddit app. This particular tutorial is actually just going to be on Retrofit, but I'm going to turn this app into the Reddit app eventually, so I'm going to call it Reddit app. And we'll just do empty activity, and that's fine. Okay, so to get started, I just want to get Retrofit into the app and make sure that it's getting the data correctly. So I'll get the data and print it to the log, and then I'll cut the video and we'll go on to the next step. So to get started with Retrofit, we're going to go into our build.gradle, and we're going to need to add the Retrofit dependencies. So let's go to the Retrofit GitHub, and we're on the home page. No, we're not. Here we are. So I'll put all the links in the description, by the way. So let's grab this dependency and paste it in. Call it Retrofit. And we're going to need to get one more dependency too, because we're going to be using their XML converter like I talked about in the previous video. So go up here and go to Retrofit Converters, and let's grab the simple XML converter. Go down, and this is what we're going to grab. So copy, go back to, why didn't it go back? Back to Android Studio, and we'll go paste it in, and then we just need to make sure that we add our version here. So we're using 2.2.0, as you can see from up here, and hit sync. Okay, so if you get this error, I actually ran into this problem too. I'm not actually sure what the problem stems from, but I know how to solve it. So I found a Stack Overflow blog post, and you just need to add this little snippet of code into here, and we need to surround this into brackets just like that. And I don't know why. It looks like it's excluding some part of the dependency. I'm really not sure. Yeah, but I know that it will fix it. So if you have the same problem as I did, just add those little bits of code into there. Alright, so let's close the build.gradle, and let's go to the Retrofit website. So if you want to go to the Retrofit website, you find the link. Where is it? Probably here. Yeah. So it's just going to take you to the website, and now we need to get started with Retrofit. So you can see here we need to create an interface, and we need to give the interface a name. They call theirs GitHub service, but we're going to be pulling an RSS feed, so I'll call it like feed API. So let's go back to our project, go to new, Java class, change this to interface, and we'll go feed API. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put our base URL up here so I don't have to type it out again. And our base URL is going to be the one that is never going to be changed. So up into the RSS feeds, this is the part that changes, right? Because we can go to pics, or we can go to earth porn, we can go to whatever. This is the non-static part. This part is static. So we're going to grab that, and I'm just going to paste it in there, just so we have our base URL in our project and I don't have to go back. So the way that they get you to set it up in Retrofit is this is the way you would set it up if you wanted to use a static URL. But to just get started, I'm just going to use one Reddit subreddit. So in other words, I'm going to use a static URL just for testing. Then we'll go back and we'll change it to non-static. It's really simple either way. So we'll copy this, go back to Android Studio, paste it in, and we're going to we don't need this path. That's for if it's not static. And in here, this is where we're actually going to put our URL. So let's go to Reddit, and we'll just grab earth porn, sure. So I copied that, and I'm just going to stick that in there, and let's import the libraries we need. And normally they use a list here because when you're normally pulling an RSS feed, you're going to be pulling a list of tags. So I'll show you what I mean. If we go to our beautifier, notice that this tag entry repeats over and over. So like this is entry 1, this is entry 2, this is entry 3, and so on and so on. So that's why they use a list. That's one way to do it. I'm going to do it a little differently. I'm going to get rid of the list in here, and I'm going to use I'm going to declare a list in our object classes. So I'll show you what I mean later, but for now, I'm just going to call this feed, and later we're going to create a feed object. And then this is going to be the method that we use to get the feed, so we just go get feed, and that's it. So this is actually all we need to do in this class right now, if we're pulling a static URL. It's a little different if we're pulling a non-static URL, but like I said, just to get started, we're going to pull a static URL. So now we need to create a folder to manage our data models. So go up here, go to create a new package, and we'll call it model. And inside model, we'll create our first class, and this is going to be feed. So I'm calling it feed because if we go to the code beautifier, the first tag up here is feed, right here. So inside the feed object, quote unquote, is all of our data. These are the properties that describe feed, and then inside feed are all these entries. So we can see we have feed, and then here we have all the properties that describe feed, and then we have entry, which is another property of feed, but entries repeat over and over and over again until the very bottom when feed closes. So these are kind of the object classes that we're going to want to create. So the first one, the kind of parent object class, is going to be feed. And all of our models are going to be serializable. So we make sure to add that. And then inside of our feed class, we need to figure out what kind of objects we're going to put in here. So if we look at feed, the feed tag ends here, or starts here. And then inside feed, we have category, updated, icon, ID, link, logo, subtitle, title, and entry. And then entry repeats. So what we need are all of these strings, I guess, basically, because we're going to try and get what's in between the tags. So we're going to go back to our project, and I'll write in the first one, and then I'll skip the video ahead because you don't need to watch me just write out these objects. So the first one was icon, first one that I want. So if we go back to here, icon's the first one I want, and what I mean by that is I'm going to skip these two. Updated is already inside the entry objects, I'll call them. So that's where I'm going to get my date and time information from, so I'm going to skip updated. Category just tells me what subreddit I already know I'm in, so this is literally useless to me. I'm not going to bother getting it. And then I'm just going to get the other ones. I'm going to skip link also. I don't need that, and I'll get the rest of them. So I'll go back in here, and I'll type those out. Alright, so we got icon, ID, logo, title, updated, and subtitle. And then one at the bottom that's going to be a little different. I'm going to have to create a list. So remember when I was talking about the list that I didn't make in the feed API, how I took that list out of there? That's why I'm going to create this list right here. So I'm going to create a list of entries just like that. And of course this is angry because I haven't even created the entry class yet. And so these are all of the tags that I'm going to extract from the feed here. So all of the ones that I want from there. And an important thing to note is if you skip things like I did, like I didn't get category, I didn't get link, whatever. If you skip some, the library doesn't like that. So like the Retrofit library doesn't like that. So you have to make sure that you let it know that you're skipping things. So what you do is you go up here and you go root, import root, you go name, and this is going to be called feed because it's our feed. And then we go strict equals false. So strict equals false is the key here. What that means, by default, strict is equal to true, and what that means is it won't grab what's inside the tags unless literally every one of these parameters is declared in here and exists in there. So if I go strict equals false, that's basically telling the library that it's okay if you can't find, say, category, the category tag. If it doesn't exist, whatever, still grab the data. So this is very important. Make sure you stick that in there. Okay, so next, now above each one of these objects, we have to go at element, and same sort of thing, we go name, and this is going to be called icon, because inside here, that's what the tag says. So that's what the element says. So we need to actually reference it directly. So we can print each one of these inside here, and then change the names. So this one's ID, this one's logo, this one's title, this one's updated, this one's subtitle, and then we have entry. Okay, so now we're going to create our getter and setter methods. So just alt insert getter and setters, and we'll just grab all these. So that's good. Oh, this is a mistake. Make sure here, because we're using a list, we have to use element list. So import that, and this is still angry. And make sure to also put inline here. That should be good. Okay, so now this is pretty angry, so let's create this entry class. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to Model, right click, and go to Package, and I'm going to create a new package. This is just my preferred way to organize the data, and I'm going to create an entry package. And then inside entry, I will create a new Java class, and that's where I'm going to create my entry class. And then I'll go back to here and import that entry. So this one. And then import list, and there we go. So now go to the top, make sure that when you import the entry class that it's actually coming from this package. So you can see it's coming from model, entry, entry. So if you do it the same way I do, just make sure that you're importing, because you saw there was a bunch of libraries that I could have imported, make sure that it imports the right one from the right package. Okay, so next we'll go into the entry class, and now we're going to do pretty much the exact same thing as we did in the feed class. And I guess I can import this. Okay, call, there we go. Okay, so that's not angry anymore. So anyway, yeah, back to entry. So this is going to be the same sort of thing here, except we're going to be grabbing the tags that's inside of entry. So we need author, category, once again, we don't care about, content, ID we don't care about, link we don't need, because all the links are actually in the content tag. So everything we need is in the content tag. And title. Oh yeah, I guess I should talk about that. So inside the content tag is actually all the links that we're going to need. You can't see it here. Maybe I'll just copy it. So if I copy that and open Notepad, so inside here, this is actually really hard to read. Maybe I'll talk about it when I get it into the log. It's really hard to read right there. It'll be better in the log. So anyway, yeah, we're just going to grab the things that I need. So let's go back to our project, and I'll type in the parameters that we need just like before. So to start, let's get @root, import that, and go name equals entry. And once again, we want to go strict equals false because we're not going to be grabbing everything. And implement serializable. And now we need to create all of our tags that we want to grab. So we go string, content, and author, title, update. And then just like before, we grab this @element and we give them the proper names. So this one will be content, and I'll copy it. Whoops. Paste, 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 and this one will be author and title and updated. And because we're creating a list in this entry object, I guess I'll call it, repeats over and over again, we're going to need a default constructor in here. So we'll go insert, whoops, that was not what I wanted to do. Insert constructor, and let's grab all these, and let's insert the empty constructor too, because I'm not actually 100% sure if you need it or you don't. So let's just put it in there anyway. And then let's generate all of our getter and setter methods, so just like that. And that should be good. Oh, I forgot ID. Not that it, whoops. Not that it really matters, but let's get ID in here. Okay, so now let's go back to our XML. And the last thing we need to do is this. So notice how this author object here actually contains 2 parameters. Everything else only contains 1, everything that we're looking for. So because just like the entry, how entry has all of these properties, author has 2 properties. So we can grab those 2 properties. So we'll create one more class inside entry. I'll just go author and implement serializable again and do this, whoops, same sort of stuff. So @root and name, it'll just be author, and strict equals false. Although we actually are grabbing everything inside of author, we'll still use false. And inside author, there's only 2 things. We got name and URI. So we just need to create those objects. So private string name, private string URI. And do @element name equals name, and at element name equals URI. That should be good. We just need our getter and setter methods. Okay, so now all of our data models are ready. They're ready to go. Now we just need to actually set up all the rest of the retrofit stuff in main activity. So let's go over to main activity, and we're going to go back to the retrofit blog post, and we can see that this is the next sort of step here. So let's copy that, and we'll paste that into main activity. And we're not using a GitHub service, we're using a feed API object, and we'll just call it feed API, and once again we're putting it in here, and we need to change a few things. Let's go grab our URL, so let's grab this and we'll paste it in main activity, and let's actually get our log first, so log t, and let's go private static final, and then paste our base URL, and we're going to put our base URL in here, so base URL, and we need to add a converter factory because we're doing we're parsing XML, so it should be simple XML converter factory and then .create. So if you were parsing some other kind of data, you would use whatever type of data you needed to. So like I showed you earlier in the tutorial, you could just go to their GitHub page, which isn't up anymore, but you could choose from all those different converters. Okay, now we need to create a call. So we go call, we're going to call a feed object, we're going to call it call, and go equals feed API dot get feed. And this get feed method is from inside of feed API. So that's this right here. Whatever I name this, that's what this needs to be. Okay, now we're going to use enqueue, which if anybody's familiar with data structures, enqueue is typically used to add something to a queue. So like if you have a stack, you use enqueue to add it to a queue. So we're going to use enqueue and go new callback. Android Studio does everything for you. And then we're just going to print a couple things to the log. So let's do on failure first. So this would be if you were successful. This would be if it failed to read from the RSS feed. So we can go log e, go unable to, retrieve, RSS, I guess, and do plus t.get message. So t is going to be the error message in this case, right here. And we can also create a toast, because why not? We'll do toast. Make text main activity dot this error occurred, and then length, do length short, and dot show. So now we're going to do the successful message. So we'll just do log d and just type feed, I guess, and then plus response. We call body, which is a method from the retrofit library. And then, so we could create a toString method inside of feed and print everything out, but I actually don't really care about any of this stuff. I really only care about the entries. So I'm just going to do get entries, and then we're going to print out another message. We're going to print out the server response. So server response, and this will just be response.toString. And what this is going to do is it's going to print out an HTTP server response. So if you guys are familiar with HTTP status codes, that's all it's going to print out. If it's successful, it'll print out 200. If it's not, or something happens, it'll print out another code. So then that'll help with debugging. If something goes wrong, at least then you know what's going on. You could also print it to a toast. That way you would let the user know, but I'm just going to print it to the log. Oh, we need internet permission. So let's go into the manifest, uses permission, internet, and close the tag. And I think that's good. So let's run it and see if we get any errors. Okay, so it said an error occurred. You saw it when it popped up. Let's check out the old Android monitor. So this is like if you're struggling with this library, this is a very common error. It doesn't tell you a lot, it just tells you that something is wrong. So we need to figure out what's wrong here. The only thing it does tell you is it tells you sort of where the problem might be. So it looks like it's getting to author, and then it's getting, so what you can do is you can look at the RSS feed and, or not the RSS feed, yeah, the RSS feed, and you can see because the way it goes from the top down. So because it tells you that the error is somewhere something to do with the author, we know that everything up to author is good. So far any code we've written for all this is good. The problem started here. So the problem is with something to do with how it's reading that. So we can go and just try and debug that. Okay, so let's go into author. And just after a quick glance, like everything looks okay here. There's not a lot to it. All it has is name and URI. So let's go into entry. And I don't know, maybe not every single entry has an author. So let's make this required equals false and just see if that's the problem. So we'll rerun it. Okay, so we don't get an error. There was no toast, and we can see that there is information down here. So that's good. It looks really ugly, but we do actually get information. But it looks like it's not able to access these. That's what happens when you see these weird sort of @ numbers. It's pointing to a location in memory, but because the parameter is private, it can't actually read it. So let's, yeah, so it's happening over and over again. So I could change it to public, or I could just make a toString method. That's what I originally was going to do. So let's actually go down here and we'll go Alt Insert and override methods and just go toString, and we'll just write out a little toString method. So we'll go, I don't know, feed and new line and some square brackets. And the only thing I really care about is entries, so I'll just do maybe entries and break the brackets and do entries. And if we do that, that means we also have to make a toString method in entries. So let's go down here. We'll go Alt Insert and go down to toString and just print out the string. So now that will print out the entry, and then the entry toString method should then get called, and we can do the same thing with author. So we'll go down here, Alt Insert toString, just like that. And then at the end of this will be the end of the chain. So do a new line, and then do a whole bunch, plus, and just do a whole bunch of this to kind of break it up so we can actually tell kind of what's what, and do a new line after that also. Okay, let's stop it and we'll go to main activity, and instead of get entries, I'm going to call toString, and let's see what we get from that. So press enter, open up the log. Okay, so that's better, but it still looks pretty ugly. So we can see there's where entries start, then there's our first entry, and I don't know, there's another one. I don't know if it's the second one, but so we need to break this up a little better. Oh, and you also notice that it doesn't pull everything from the RSS feed. There's a limit on how much information the log can show, so it's only going to show maybe the first 5 or 6 entries. So just kind of note that. When you're actually building the app, it will pull all the information, but the log is limited. So to make this look a little better, we should put a new line there, and we'll put an, I don't know why it actually didn't, this was supposed to pull the new line. Oh yeah, I shouldn't have put this here, sorry. Let's grab this. Actually, I'll grab it right up to the plus sign. I'm just going to close that off, and I'm actually going to put that here. That will break up the entries, and let's also put a new line here, and let's put a new line at the beginning of each entry. Maybe even 2 new lines, why not? And let's take a look and see what that looks like. That should be better though. Okay, so now it's broken up. Now I can tell which entry is which, so that's good. Okay, so now at this point we would look at the data and try and figure out how we were going to deal with it. Basically we're printing out these entries, and inside the entries we have these links. We have like this is going to be the link to the actual post itself. Let's go back. This one is going to be the thumbnail, so we can see our thumbnail. Let's see. That's the title right there. That would be easy to get. And we have another link here that's to the user. See what kind of stuff the user. And this is a link to the Imager post, so the actual image hosted on Imager. And that's another link to the post, so it's the same as that one. Those two are the same. And author is null. So actually there's a problem with our author class. It's not getting that. But I think I'm going to stop this video here. It's getting pretty long already. So we have our app working. We're able to get the data. We're able to look at it. Now we just need to basically figure out how we're going to deal with it. And I'll also fix this author thing right here because it's not able to access the author properties. So yeah, in the next video we're gonna learn how to deal with this data and organize it in a meaningful way so that we can stick it into a card view. If this video was helpful, make sure to leave a like below. Follow me on Twitter for notifications when new tutorials are posted. Subscribe if you haven't already, and thanks for watching.